So here's D and Tim, top 10 things that we think you should do if you're interested in being a public speaker.
Niggas can say I changed on them because I stopped.
Alright, hey friends, it's D
And Tim.
and we are back with another video.
Another one coming back.
So,
yeah.
one of the things that we've been very privileged to have as designers, especially as Black designers, are platforms for public speaking. Tim and I both travel a lot across the nation, sharing our work, connecting with other designers, speaking about the power of design to do good in the world. And we wanted to share a few of our tips and lessons that we've been learning along the way to keep jobs and opportunities coming over and over and over.
So here's D and Tim, top 10 things that we think you should do if you're interested in being a public speaker.
Sweet deal.
Number 1. The first thing I would say is you need to find what's special about you that maybe you're somewhat of an expert on, because that's most of the time what people are going to want you to speak about. They're going to probably call you to speak about that one thing until you start to branch yourself out into different speeches and start having different speeches. But until then, you continue to be asked to speak about that one thing. For me, it's the 28 Days of Black Designers project that people come and ask me to speak about. And so that's what I speak about when I go to different places. But during Design Week, I'm going to be introducing another speaking topic. And probably after that, I'll probably be asked to come to speak more about that.
Yeah. Alongside that, I would also say become very great at telling your story. From your images that you use to the cadence in your voice to how you talk about your work and your journey. People love a good story. They also love a good hero story. So use storytelling, like find your voice in the ways that you talk about your work, because that is going to keep people wanting more. For myself, it's 2017. I've been talking about the Mirror Casket project, one of my works, since 2015, and I integrate other works, but people always want to know, so what's new with that piece? The story continues, and it's great to let people know that our work can carry on and live beyond the time frame of what we even aspired or initially intended.
Number 2.
Learn how to market yourself. Like, really get out there and, from your portfolio to your social media, be intentional about the ways that you engage with others within the creative field. Because if people don't know that you are available to speak, or that you're even interested in speaking about your work or another topic, they won't ask you. And so market yourself, put it out in the universe. And once you put it out in the universe, follow through. If people invite you to things, initially they may not pay a lot, but go for it. Like, always get paid, of course. Know your worth, know your value, but market yourself, put yourself out there.
Number 3. You should prepare yourself for this. So when you go and start doing public speaking, especially get to the point where they're asking you, you're always going to need a bio, and you're probably going to need a short bio, a medium-sized bio, a long bio, and some fun facts about yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to need some photos. And I suggest having a horizontal, like wide lens type photo, and then a narrow photo, because you never know how these different things are going to work when they start bringing their designer in to design you into their different publications and stuff. You should have multiple photos. I know for a while I've been using the same photo with the same look, but give yourself multiple photos. And I would suggest that you create like a Google Drive with that stuff in there. That's a photo that you can just share the link.
Yep.
And they can choose which bio they want, they can choose the fun facts they want, and the photo you want, and you don't have to worry about that. Because at being over conference, the hardest thing for me to get is to get the smaller details about these individuals when they come to speak at the Design Plus Diversity Conference. It really drives me crazy, like be asking for a bio for like the past 5 weeks, and then I finally get it. Not talking about you, D. You got yours in to me earlier this year. Then when I finally get it, then we have issue things like need to switch things out, and things that should be like this on the website and like that. So if you already have it together,
provide options.
Yeah, when you say yes and send that link, they'll be like, oh, he's very professional, very cool.
That makes it so much easier on yourself as well as the conference, because they can then craft it to what they need, because each conference needs a different length, each conference needs a different type of photo, whether it's color, black and white, square, and avatar, different sizes. And so providing that as an option just makes it easier for everyone, especially as you gain more traction as a public speaker. I would also add to that, like, on your personal website, include those links so that if someone is interested in you, they already can access it. My CV, my bio, my link to my headshots, it's all on my website, and so people can have access to that as they need it. And that also works well with media if you're getting media and press coverage for your work as well.
Number 4.
Work every room you enter. Actually, I'm going to combine two. One, work every room that you enter, but when you're on stage, work the room afterwards, because one of the things that I've learned as a public speaker is that each new opportunity comes from the room that I was just in. When I spoke at the AIGA conference in 2015, Ellen Lupton, who's one of my design mentors and idols, was in the room, and for the last 2 years I've worked with the university, the Maryland Institute College of Art, where she's based, not only with her for designing civil rights conferences, but also with other professors, other departments at that university. That probably would have never happened if I didn't talk to people in the room and just simply say hello. When you give a damn good speech, there will always be people who come up to you afterwards and say, hey, I really loved what you said. Can you come to my university? Can you come to my conference? Follow through with them. Don't just nod your head and say, like, sure, that sounds great, and take the flattery of it. Like, follow through and make it happen, because you never know what might come of that opportunity.
Number 5, treat speaking at conferences like it's a business.
Yes, it is a business.
If you get to the point where you're applying to speak at conferences, there's a certain format that these things need to be laid out, and you should really make sure that you have this very well structured. Make sure that you give detail around what you're talking about, what the audience is going to learn from it, what you want them to take away from it. If you're doing a speaking topic, you want to make sure that you have questions so that you can ask questions afterwards. And then you need to study other people who speak good. Get on TED.
Speak well.
Speak well, yeah. Get on TED Talk. Look at them. Look at how they're presenting. Look at how they're setting it up. There's so many different ways you can start. You can start with the video, that brings drama into your speaking, to your stage presence, and then after that, lead directly into your presentation. Or you can start with the story. I'm one that likes to start with a very dramatic story that draws the audience in, and then we get to that point where everybody's like, oh my God, and then I start my presentation. Think about these different tools that you can use to make a very interesting presentation. And then you should also work to be very energized. Having a lot of energy, it's going to feel like they're like draining the energy out of you, especially if you get in front of an audience, that like so captivated that no one says anything or shakes their head, or you don't hear an amen or anything like that from the audience. It just feels like they're just draining your energy. But after what you find out, they're like, oh my God, you were so full of energy. That was so great. I stayed awake for all your presentation. You were the best one up there on the stage. That energy goes a long way.
You want to hear someone say that. Like, that is always my goal, is to like be the best damn person speaking today. You can give me the most boring content and not give me slides, and I can still make it compelling. You want to get to that type of level with your content where no matter what you say, it is compelling to the audience that you're talking to. Be able to determine whether or not you are there to inspire them, to educate them, to call them to action. In fact, I would say always, or as appropriate, leave people with either something to keep thinking about or a call to action to take. One other thing that I would add to this notion of like the content of the entire experience of public speaking, is that if you are able to integrate it back into, or integrate your call to action back into social media to keep the conversation going even after you're off the stage. One way is to have a hashtag that people can send more questions or more thoughts to. A very unique hashtag that is related to either yourself. It can be like hashtag Tim Hykes or hashtag D Nichols. And when you search that after a conference, you can see the comments, the ideas that people are leaving for you. That is one way to keep building the relationships, because that's part of the point of public speaking. It's not just, you're not just doing it to get the exposure. Do it to build relationships, to build and spread your network, to start a movement with the work that you're doing, because there's a bigger opportunity that public speaking provides in terms of being a pull strategy for making ideas happen. And so learn how to harness it.
6.
Yes. Yes. So for number 6, I would say, as you're following up with people, because public speaking is not just the presentation, it's the preparation work, it's the research, it's the creation of the slides, it's the presentation and the talk, it's the rehearsing, and afterwards it's the following up. There's so much that's entailed in it. And when you are engaging with people, make sure that it's a win-win, that you are getting something out of the experience and that they are getting something out of the experience. And even if you don't have images, like, give them a reason to want to keep having a conversation with you.
Number 7, always keep, well, when you start speaking, what you start to notice if you're going out and doing public speaking by yourself with different smaller engagements, especially around your panel, you should try bringing someone with you to just take a picture of you on stage, to update your own like Twitter profile or something like that while you're up there on stage. It's very important that you start to have like a collateral of you speaking, even if you have to bring mom in so that she can record you while you're speaking. And why is this important? Because when you start to write to different conferences that are looking for speakers and presenting your topics and stuff, sometimes they might ask for documentation about your speaking. And don't lie about them. Tell them that if you haven't never spoke before, you haven't, but if you have, being able to provide them with a video link or being able to provide them with a link to another conference that you spoke at comes in handy, because then number one, they can see, oh, this is something that you do, and then they do, Lord, and then they can see that they can see your speaking style and if you're would be the right choice for their conference. So it's very important that you do start to build a library of things that you can just pull from to show people. Yeah. Like Dee said earlier, put it on your website. Create a section like, these are different articles that I have, these are conferences that I'm speaking at, these are upcoming conferences, and this is past content from those conferences.
Yeah, one of the things that I've also done with archiving my work is create a playlist on my YouTube page that says like D Nichols public speaking, and you can see every single video of me speaking that's been recorded. For those that haven't been recorded, you can always see the photos of it. What's really great is, especially if you take that pathway of creating a hashtag, or if the event has a hashtag, go through it and see who captured your a photo of you speaking. That really helps as well, because one, you're building a relationship with whoever took that photo, and people love to give permission for them to be credited in some part of your journey. And so they're speaking of that win-win. It's a community effort. It becomes a community effort. But Tim is so right when it comes to having someone who's there with you, whether it's a friend, if you're at a conference by yourself, if you just met someone, give them your phone, because you're not going to be using it on stage. Say, yo, here's my camera, or here's my phone. Can you take photos of me while I'm up here? Most people will comply. All right.
8.
So number 8. Be unafraid to ask for an opportunity to speak. With attending conferences, with being in different spaces, going to networking events, if you have something that you want to talk about, ask people in the room, like, is there an event that they're coming up with, or if there is something that is in alignment, a program, a project, create something with people to help spread your message and spread your voice. Be able to contribute to the ideas and the events of others, and that's also another pathway towards getting more opportunities to speak.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of, if there's not anyone inviting me out there, or I can't find this avenue, I'll just create it myself.
Yes.
You can create your own pathway to where you start doing speech. I mean, Eventbrite, it's free for you to create something. All you just need is one person to show up.
Yeah.
You start with one and move from there, and you never know, within 2-3 years time you might have a room full. So you can always create your own opportunities if it need be. I do it all the time.
Yeah, just as an example, this past summer I had a whole speaking tour, and it was not something that I pre-planned, but I knew that I was going to be spending extended time in San Francisco, in New Orleans, in DC, in Baltimore, in all of these cities, and with that knowledge, I made sure that I was speaking to an audience at some point throughout each one of those, and it built over time. And when I got to San Francisco, I ended up speaking during their design week, giving a talk at one of their major companies, big events, and then going to another space and doing an impromptu conversation with audiences. Public speaking can take different forms. It's not always at a podium. Sometimes it's a dinner conversation where you open up the dinner and then people around you start to cultivate conversation. Sometimes it's in the format of going to an organization and speaking in front of their constituents and their board and their staff. There are different ways that you can manifest public speaking as you start to build towards taking on main stages or even getting your first few keynotes.
9, critique and practice.
Yes.
You should definitely always practice. Do a run through. You should be doing a practice before you get there, which sometimes doesn't happen a lot with me. And you should definitely at least get some time on stage to figure out, are you going to be doing this presentation from your computer? Are they using your computer? Or are you using another computer?
Do you need a USB?
With bringing your own computer, you need to make sure that you have the proper connections for it. Don't rely on them to have a connection to your iPad or or your MacBook Pro. Most cases, they probably want to be looking at you like you're crazy. They might be using Google Slides, so make sure you have all this information ahead of time. And then when it comes to critiquing, you need to know.
If I could add to some of that prep work, if you are going to be using your own laptop and you have a Mac, bring your own dongle. There's so many organizations and conferences that sometimes do not have that dongle, and if you don't have that connector piece, you can find yourself pretty screwed. I would also say in terms of preparation, know what the style of the stage is going to be. If you're going to be sitting or standing, if you're going to be at a podium, if you're going to have space to have your notes or not, or if it's freestanding, what type of mic are you going to be speaking into? Are they going to clip you so that you can have free form or free range of movement, or do you have to be in place the entire time? Are there teleprompters? Be able to, if there are teleprompters, I remember my first keynote where there were teleprompters. Being able to work a room and give an authentic talk as you're reading from 4 different screens, that actually takes a lot of practice. So being able to get into the room and see the space and know where the lighting is, all of these types of just fine-tuning that comes with public speaking is so important.
Yeah, and then going back to presentation, it's probably best that you create probably like 3 different presentations. The same presentation, but if you have one in Keynote, one on Google Slides, and probably another one that's in PowerPoint or PDF. That's for a PDF. So therefore you cover it. So if stuff starts getting there and stuff starts going down, they don't have it. Here, you can have this. Here, I got this. You'll be good. You'll be set. Yeah. And then moving on to critiquing. Always critique your work. Always, if you're able to talk to somebody in the audience or have somebody there who's able to give you an authentic critique of what was good, what was bad, compare and contrast.
What are the opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, you want to always be getting better and always having a better speech the next time. Especially if you're going to give the same talk the next time, you need to know what to throw out, what to add in. And that even goes as far as the design of your presentation and what it looks like and how you have it designed. I always tell people I prefer just a picture and a word on the screen to give that, to draw the mind towards something, and I completely speak off of, notes that are inside my head.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't include a lot of text in my presentations, because when I get that visual cue, I can tell the story about what that image is, how it integrates into the bigger message that I'm conveying. I would also say in terms of critique, like there are some speakers who literally do the same talk each time that they go to a different space, and that there's a role for that. There is power in that. And there are some of us who change it up every single time. I personally feel like there is a lot of value in targeting what the message is. Like, so taking the same content but tweaking it, making it special for that audience. Yeah. And for me as well, I don't use a script most of the time. I'll rehearse it in my head, but when it comes out, I want it to be authentic. And so find what works best for you, because for me, I know that if I write a script for every single speech that I do, I'm gonna overthink it, and then that's when I'm gonna mess up, because I'll be so into my thoughts about what specific word is coming next, versus just saying, hey, I know that when I see this image of this particular object, here's the story that I'm going to tell.
So that brings us to number 10, and number 10 is always be prepared. You never know you never know when the next opportunity is going to come. You never know when you're going to be out and someone's going to say something. You want to make sure that you always have something prepared. If I'm out with dinner with somebody and they're like, oh, I didn't know you supposed to speak, I want to see something, having that information right there to show them instantly. Here's the link to my bio and photos and stuff. Here's the link where you can find more information. You want to make sure you always have that prepared. You never want to miss out on those opportunities because you weren't prepared. Yeah. Believe it or not, people have certain ways of getting off conversations and running things. One is the business card method. You be in the middle of a conversation, but do you have a business card? And as soon as you say no, it's like, oh, well, just you can find me and just email me or something like that. So always prepare yourself.
Yes, be prepared in that regard. Be prepared for the questions that people may want to ask about your work. Be prepared for criticism or critique that may come. That is one thing that's been very important for me, because some of my work addresses controversial and divisive issues like racial equity and social justice, and everyone in my audience may not be as liberal or progressive as I may expect. And so if someone who's more conservative or doesn't believe in certain rights that people should have, then that's a conversation that I need to be prepared for, and to be able to navigate that with understanding, with empathy on their side, but also with self-advocacy to stand behind the work that I create.
Yeah. So that brings us to our top 10 things that we think you should be prepared for, or you should be doing when you're trying to get into public speaking.
Yes, and if you have others that perhaps we didn't cover, leave it in the comments below. If you are a public speaker already, let us know what have been some of the tips, the lessons, the insights, the strategies that have been really great for you. If you speak with a speakers bureau, both of us are independent speakers. If you're with a speakers bureau, I'm pretty sure there are people who may want to know that perspective too. And please share that in the comments below as well.
Share your websites too, so we can go and look at your websites and look at the different things. And as always, we always ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and check us out again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.